Okay, what the hell is this? Imagine stepping off a plane, breathing in the ancient Jerusalem air, and in less than a week, you're standing in the middle of the old city, draped in hotel bed sheets, preaching to crowds about the end times. Sounds like a fever dream, right? But this is real. Welcome to the psychological vortex that is Jerusalem, a city so powerful, so spiritually supercharged, that it can literally make perfectly ordinary people lose their minds. We're not talking about urban legends or internet rumors. This is a phenomenon recognized by doctors, studied by psychiatrists, and documented in medical journals. Jerusalem syndrome. Tourists arrive as accountants from Ohio or teachers from Tokyo and suddenly think they're biblical prophets. Business executives start baptizing strangers in public fountains. Grandmothers become convinced they're the Virgin Mary. It's a parade of personality transformations, complete with white robes, wild-eyed sermons, and a level of conviction that makes you question reality itself. Jerusalem syndrome isn't just a catchy headline. It's a real psychological condition. And today, you're going to hear 10 of the most insane facts about it that will make you rethink everything you know about the power of place, faith, and the human mind. Let's start with the basics. Jerusalem syndrome is a real, documented medical condition. It isn't just tourist weirdness, it's in the textbooks. Dr. Yair Bar-El and his colleagues at Jerusalem's Kfar Shoal Mental Health Center have been studying it for decades, documenting hundreds of cases where visitors with no history of mental illness arrive in the holy city and, within days, go off the deep end. We're talking about regular people. No schizophrenia, no drug use, no trauma. Just a trip to Jerusalem, and suddenly, they're channeling Moses or Mary Magdalene. The symptoms are so consistent that doctors have created a checklist. Obsessive cleansing rituals, wearing white robes or sheets, singing hymns at the top of their lungs, believing they're a biblical figure, and feeling compelled to deliver sermons to anyone in earshot. It's as if the city flips a psychological switch that unlocks some hidden religious fervor in the brain. And here's where it gets even weirder. The syndrome typically lasts 5 to 7 days. After a week, most people just snap back to normal. The transformation is dramatic, but the recovery is almost instantaneous. 1 minute, they're John the Baptist. The next, they're asking why they're wearing a bedsheet in public. It's as if Jerusalem comes with a built-in psychological warranty, temporary insanity, fully reversible, no lasting side effects. But wait, it gets even crazier, because there's not just one type of Jerusalem syndrome. Dr. Bar-El identified 3 distinct forms, like choosing your own psychological adventure. Type 1. People with a pre-existing mental health condition, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, who experience a flare-up triggered by the city's intense atmosphere. Type 2. Religious fanatics, already deeply devout, who become supercharged by the city's spiritual energy and tip over into obsession. But Type 3 is the wildest, completely normal people with no history of mental illness or religious obsession, who arrive in Jerusalem and, with no warning, undergo a total personality transformation. This is the rarest form, but also the most dramatic. Total personality replacement, as if the city has downloaded a new operating system into their brain. The symptoms themselves are bizarre and incredibly specific. First, the obsessive shower phase. Patients become fixated on cleanliness, taking up to 15 showers a day, scrubbing themselves as if trying to wash away their entire previous existence. Next, the toga party. The compulsion to wear white robes, usually improvised from hotel sheets or towels. Hotels in Jerusalem have learned to keep a close eye on their linen supply. Then comes the spontaneous sermon, delivering religious messages to anyone in sight, often to the bewilderment of fellow tourists. And of course, the identity crisis. Patients genuinely believe they are biblical figures, from Jesus to prophets to the Virgin Mary. What's striking is that these individuals aren't violent or aggressive. They're simply completely convinced that their new identity is real. Let's talk about the most infamous cases. because some Jerusalem syndrome episodes have become legendary. There's the American tourist who thought he was Samson, trying to push over pillars and challenging Israeli soldiers to arm wrestling contests. The German school teacher who became convinced she was the Virgin Mary, spending days looking for a stable to give birth in. The British businessman who transformed into Moses, carrying stone tablets around and issuing new commandments. His first, naturally, was about the importance of queue etiquette. And the Australian surfer who began baptizing strangers in fountains, certain the Mediterranean was actually the Jordan River. Each case, a person with no previous issues, suddenly and dramatically overtaken by the spirit of Jerusalem. But here's the real plot twist. The recovery pattern is as mysterious as the onset. After 5 to 7 days, patients just wake up. It's like a reset button has been pressed. They remember being in Jerusalem, but the most dramatic, delusional parts are fuzzy, like a dream. One moment, they're Moses. The next, they're staring at a bedsheet, utterly confused. The recovery follows a timeline. Days 1 and 2, full delusion. Days 3 and 4, confusion. Days 5 and 6, growing awareness. Day 7, complete return to normalcy. Most patients have little or no memory of their episode. It's as if the city temporarily hijacks their consciousness, only to return it. No harm done, just a story for the ages. So why does this happen? Scientists have theories, and they're wild. Some say it's expectation overload. Jerusalem is so hyped as a holy place that people's brains can't reconcile the reality, triggering a breakdown. Others call it a psychological pressure cooker. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all converge here, making it the spiritual epicenter of the world. Maybe the sheer volume of religious energy is more than some minds can handle. Still others blame environmental factors. Jerusalem's altitude, intense sun, and climate may create the perfect storm for psychological weirdness. And then there are those who believe Jerusalem taps into humanity's collective unconscious, awakening deep, dormant spiritual circuits in the brain. It affects different groups in different ways. Tourists are the classic victims, their brains unprepared for the city's spiritual onslaught. Religious pilgrims are at even greater risk, their existing faith acting like an amplifier. Locals, interestingly, are almost immune. Maybe years of exposure build up a kind of psychological tolerance. Sometimes, even atheists find themselves overwhelmed, and children under 12 seem almost entirely resistant. It's like a mysterious lottery of susceptibility. And Jerusalem isn't alone. Other cities have their own syndromes. There's Paris syndrome, where Japanese tourists are so disappointed by Paris that they have complete breakdowns. Florence syndrome, where the beauty of Renaissance art is so overwhelming it causes fainting spells. Even India syndrome, where Westerners are so shocked by the culture that they lose their sense of self. But Jerusalem syndrome is the original and most well-documented. What's truly haunting is that Jerusalem syndrome isn't new. Historical records describe holy madness among pilgrims dating back centuries. Medieval travelers wrote about being overcome with religious fervor, and even Roman accounts mention visitors going mad in Jerusalem. The symptoms have barely changed: obsessive cleansing, identity confusion, public preaching. It's as if the city has a timeless script for driving sensitive minds over the edge. So what can you do to prevent it? The answer is surprisingly practical. Doctors mainly just wait it out: supportive care, reassurance, and patience. Most cases resolve themselves in about a week. Today, tour guides give psychological warnings, hotels distribute informational pamphlets, and travel insurance sometimes covers religious psychosis. Mental health professionals now view Jerusalem syndrome as an invaluable window into the interaction between environment and the brain, a natural laboratory for the mysteries of consciousness. And here's the kicker. Many people who experience Jerusalem syndrome describe it as one of the most meaningful experiences of their lives. Even though they temporarily lost touch with reality, they come away with new insights into themselves and spirituality. So, what does Jerusalem syndrome really tell us? That our brains are more malleable than we realize, and some places have a power that goes beyond history or architecture. They reach right into the mind and soul. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or just someone fascinated by the edges of human psychology, Jerusalem is a city that can literally change your mind. Would you visit, knowing the risks? Would you risk having your reality rewritten, even for a week? Drop a comment, share this with your psychology-loving friends, and remember, sometimes the most powerful journeys happen inside your own head. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of the human mind, and maybe pack a little extra mental health insurance if you're headed to Jerusalem.